let us venture into the world of advertising. Sup kids, so I was reading an article which was all about how Britain is about to ban all ads that objectify women or promote gender stereotypes, and it was a very interesting article. And essentially, it comes from this little place where, in the BBC, not the BBC, the board of branding and advertising, they have decided that they were going to introduce laws which prevent advertisers from making gender divides stronger by using stereotyped advertising. Which is fantastic. It's a move which I have been I mean, I've not been hunting people down and being like, you could do this, you need to do this, but I've been wanting. It's something which I've been wanting because advertising is one of the biggest things in the world, which absolutely annoys me to an extent where I can't kind of handle how bad some advertising is. Very loud motorcycle driving past my window right now. Either way, so yeah, they're going to introduce these rules, and the idea is that they will be restricting adverts which have depictions of harm or perceptions which could harm genders or people, and introduce stereotypes through advertising. So it's that kind of thing where, you know, you have a clothing advert, and for the men it's nice button down, straight tie and suits and all that kind of thing, and then the women are in lingerie. Which, yeah, that's apparently how clothing is advertised. So I was reading this article. I believe it's part of the New York Times, and I was reading it and I was thinking, yeah, they make some very good points. But it was very strong on the female perception of what this means and what this introduces and how this will affect women, which was fine because the section was called Women in the World. But what annoys me about this is that this article in itself doesn't exist for men. Doesn't really broach how this would affect men's advertising, and to anyone who works in advertising, men's advertising is broken. Completely broken. You have no way, no knowledge, and no idea on how to advertise to men anymore, because men are advertised to in the same way that women were advertised to in the 1950s, which was extremely sexist, extremely insulting, and extremely condescending for consumers. So I'd like to change that. I'd like to broach that. Now you may be wondering what I mean. You may be thinking, but Graham, it's only a problem from one side because there's a huge divide, and I admit there is a huge divide, and the way women are depicted in adverts is much more prevalent and much more significant within these times because, gender equality is moving at a more rapid pace, which is fantastic. But if you're not seeing the divide for men as well, then you're kind of blind to what's actually going on. You're really only taking it from your point of view. There's no equality balance to that. So I'd like to take up a few issues. So let's think of them for a second. Let's think of a men's advert. So essentially, men are depicted in one of two ways in advertising, and that is, one, they're extremely ripped, smart, stunning, Greek gods of some depiction. There's been a little bit more of movement with race within advertising, but for the most part, they are a strong, white male who will look good in a pair of boxer shorts or taking their shirt off in a Pepsi advert. Pepsi, Coke, whatever you want to drink. I prefer Pepsi overall. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, that's the first way the men are depicted. The next way men are depicted is absolute morons. So essentially, you're either pretty or you're dumb, which is why I think that men are depicted in a way that women were depicted in the 1950s. In the 1950s, the role of women in advertising was that you're either very attractive, and thus you don't need to work because you can lounge around in your lingerie and eat your dairy milk, or you were dumb. So you need to be in the kitchen, learning how to make your life easier to serve your man. Now, men's nowadays, it's just an absolute mess. Essentially, if you're not attractive, you have no shot. And if you are in an advert where you're not attractive, then you're the you're the punchline. You're the tubby guy in the beer advert whose mates are all slightly more attractive of you, and yet you're going to be the one made fun of because you're slightly off. There's very few adverts which empower men. What's the name of that advert? It's not Wild Chick, because that's maybe My Money Supermarket. I don't know, it's that advert with the guy with a huge butt. Like, he's wearing stilettos and then strutting it. And absolutely strutting it. And then there's the builder who is doing breakdancing. Now, those adverts absolutely break the norm for men's advertising. But at the same time, they come from a place which is led by that advertising. So, for instance, the man who is strutting it down the street, from the torso down, from torso up even, he's your attractive businessman. He's well-to-do, he's in the business sector, and then it subverts it and throws it there. Whereas, the slightly overweight guy who is breakdancing, from the first part you think this is going to be the boat. He looks a little less than behind there, and then suddenly, bang, he's on it. That's great, because that really twists the view you have to advertising. So these new rules, which will come in, at some point, they're basically being drawn up as guidelines at the moment. Whilst they will have a massive effect on women and how women are advertised too. I mean, it stipulates. What the hell is a stipulation? No, a stipulation is that one of the examples is given. They say that you've got depicts family members creating a mess, whilst a woman has sole responsibility for cleaning up. I cannot get my words out today. And yeah, that's one of the most annoying stereotypes in the world. However, the other flip side of that is when you don't see men in cleaning adverts because men are inept. Men don't know how to clean. They're always messy. They're either messy or they're in immaculate studio apartments above high skylines. There's no in between. There's no average man who lives in a tidy house. Because, how would men clean? That was a strange thing as well. What is that? I'm starting scanning. Is cooking. So, you've got women who are advertised to with cooking, are shown culinary goddesses, can do anything, chop, cook, can use all tools in the kitchen, can be, lords of their own realms, lordesses. What is the word ladies of their own realm. Men, on the other hand, best thing we can do to advertise you is some ready meals. Because you don't know how to cook. The flip side of that is that the cooking industry is heavily male-based. But if you're at home, no. You must be an idiot if you're cooking for yourself because you haven't got a woman to cook for you. Oh, we're going full circle in this advertising. Oh my God. Sorry. Advertising makes me angry. In so many ways. I mean, this is another step in advertising. So it's gradually becoming law written, and it's because there's been things like this before, like you're not meant to predict people. Oh yeah. Seriously, words. You're not allowed to show off people who have unrealistic or unhealthy body shape. So someone who is extremely anorexic wouldn't be shown in an advert for fashion because it's seen as an unhealthy body type and it could be damaging to people see it. And yeah, I think we've gotten to a point where they're finally broaching that mental health part of, wow, so if you go every day and see women who are sculpted and curved in advertising and you're told that that's perfect, that that's the aspiration, and if you're not that, then you're the funny friend in the crap advert about chocolate. That's, yeah, you know, we finally started broaching that. It's been too long. It's crazy that it's taken this long. It's crazy that we're having to introduce laws for it, because advertisers keep going, you know what, yeah, this is a really good idea. Let's all sit in a meeting room and, you know, we'll craft ways to absolutely destroy people. Essentially, we're at a little impasse, and it's nice to be at this impasse because it's throwing up all these questions. What shocks me, though, is that people don't see it, or they're not fussed by it. And I kind of, from one side, I get it. I get that you don't think of it. You know, you don't think, oh, you know, men have been depicted wrongly in things, and women have been depicted wrongly in things, but who cares, because it's just advertising, and we all know it's advertising. It's like, yes, we all know it's advertising because we're all over the age of 16. Up to that point, adverts have just been a way for you to learn things. As with everything, up to 16, you kind of, I mean, probably past 16 for some people, but 16 I'm going to use as the drop-off, because that's legal age of sexual activity in the UK, and that's always going to be like a line for us. So, you know, you kind of, up to that age, you're just shown everything, and you're absorbing everything, and you're crafting who you are as a person. So, to only be shown that, to, you know, pick up a teen magazine which is just full of overly sexualized teenagers, men and women, or to pick up, you know, some catalogue which shows you that, you know, you have to be inept if you're a man, which is why you need this tool to make your garden work easier, because women don't work in the garden unless it's planting flowers. You see? Yeah. Whereas men can apply Ronseal and all ales. I feel like I'm going back and forth on the same point. All I'm saying is that this is a good move. This is a nice move for the world at hand. This is a move forward to, you know, really broach that subject. That one's for you, Harry. That little slurp there. You hear it? I'm just going to do another one. Oh yeah. What it does raise is questions of how this will see advertising go forward. As I say, the men's advertising, like women's advertising, has taken a lot of steps in the last few years to really try and find a middle ground, really try and find a balance. And the bits they're targeting are the pieces which are in, you know, a solid public view. It's American Apparel, which is, you know, tried to really blur the line between legal age for sexual activity and non-legal age sexual activity. And yet, you know, you still got teens who are splayed across in small pants and tiny shirts, and they don't look of any legal age. It's a weird kind of mannequin vibe which American Apparel always shoot for, and it's disturbing on so many levels. But, you know, women's advertising has taken a lot of steps from that to try and include more people and try and advertise more humanely. It's about treating people as people rather than treating them as their gender or or even their age. You know, it's a huge balance. But for men's advertising, it's at this huge point of contrast where there is no middle ground right now. There is no middle ground of how and why it's there. And I think some of it is reaction to the fact that women's advertising has gotten so versatile. Is the way to do that, in a way, a simple way for advertisers to empower women was to just make fun of men. And they found that quite effective, as damaging as that could be. So they just went down that line. And then obviously your men's adverts where they are sexualized the same as women do very well because sex sells, so you kind of keep pushing that line. So it's created this huge void where if and when these laws come into effect, it could hugely just kind of collapse part of the advertising industry, who suddenly will have no idea how to advertise to men. No idea how to actually sell a product without trying to just appeal to the idea of masculinity being something which is achieved through force and muscle and tone, or trying to sell a product without insulting somebody who just looks normal. it's you know. Let's broach a huge subject. So let's say the Old Spice adverts. Now, Old Spice, I enjoyed the Old Spice advert. Shockingly, I know, because it was tongue in cheek. There's a difference between a sexualized advert or a stereotyped advert where a man is playing football and having lager with his mates, which is, that's not my life. That advert's not for me, so who the hell's it for? Because I tell you what, I know a lot of men. And the people who just drink lager and play football with their mates and have a curry is like 1%. And they're nice people, but that's like 1%, and yet that's still how you're advertising the world? No. Anyway. So the Old Spice advert, it was tongue-in-cheek, and obviously it was heavily sexualized because it had a very sculpted, man who was riding horses and producing diamonds from nowhere. But would that come under fire for these new laws? Because he's not unhealthy. He looks very healthy. I imagine he's quite healthy. Is it unrealistic as a body type? No, not particularly. He wasn't, steroid level sculpt. Was it making fun of men in any way? No. Was it stereotyping women in any way? A little. Because it essentially offered women a selection of things which they, as stereotypes, enjoy. And they're saying that a man was not a man enough unless he had Old Spice. That's the part of the advert which annoyed me. Look at your man, then look at me. Because a man's not a man unless you're him. I prefer the Terry Crews Old Spice adverts, which were just about him yelling for the most part. It's a tricky line to walk, but it's going to be really interesting to watch advertising companies struggle. And to steal a line from Bill Hicks, advertisers are the worst people in the world. Making you buy crap you don't need. I mean, they're not making you buy it, but they're having a heavy hand in it. But it was just a thought. It was a thought I had whilst reading this article, and I thought that it was suitable fodder for a podcast. Especially considering the following podcasts I'd like to record. So these rules are in development. And hopefully they will come into play. And it will have a great effect on the industry and a great effect just on the future. I mean, no one's saying that it's ever going to change anything instantly, It's not going to be a sudden switch of, no longer stereotypes on TV. Suddenly everyone in their 20s is doing, whatever they want to do and being empowered. That's never going to happen. Because that's not who you're thinking about when you introduce rules like this. What you're thinking about is the kids who turn on the TV and they see mom and dad in a household, and the mom's doing all the cleaning and the dad's kind of inept and messy. And then they look at their own family and they think, what's wrong with my family? If the people on TV are like that, why is my family wrong? Maybe I should be like that. If I can achieve that, and only that, then I'll be doing better. Look at that stunning woman in the hair advert who, stands in the rain and washes her hair and whatever. Like, oh, wow, she looks amazing. And she washes her hair in what product? Can I buy that product? If I don't wash my hair, will people not like me? Oh, look at those guys. They're having such a fun time in that pub. They're watching maybe I should watch football. Oh, look at those football players who are all incredibly sculpted and going out and having fun. Oh, look at that guy they're making fun of who's not drinking that beer. Who's sat having another drink. Who isn't tall and attractive. Who isn't this ideological view. If I'm not them, then what am I? Advertising for men is broken. Advertising for women is changing. I'd like to see them both change. I'll talk to you guys later.